Why women are leaving workforce at an alarming rate? Why India needs Womenomics? Why India still has half of its potential untapped in terms of workforce? If Indian women participated as much as equal to men, our GDP would be more than almost $3 trillion. That is 27% increase. From 1990s, where our female labor force participation rate was 40%, we have seen a historical low of 19% in 2020s. But the recent increase is promising, but India still stands at a crossroad. And what we need right now is Womenomics. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and today we are going to understand that why India needs Womenomics, what exactly is Womenomics, and what is the concern that women are leaving workforce even today. So let us start with understanding and looking at some of the data that is in front of us. So if we talk about the workforce participation, so the labor force participation rate in recent times has gradually improved. But if you see here, if you talk about 1990s, it was almost somewhere around 40%. But if you see, we have touched a historical low in 2018 and 19. I'll present you with another data where you will see that what is the percentage of gender gap when we are comparing to other same level economies. We find that the gender gap in terms of percentage points is highest in India when we are comparing with other countries like South Africa, Kenya, China, Nepal, Russia, etc. But when we talk about female labor force participation rate, we are standing the lowest. I'll present with you another data that will give us more insight into the fact that why are we talking about Womenomics, the need of it for India. So if we talk about women leaving the workforce and look at the data, then India is stationed at 165th rank out of 187 in terms of female labor force participation rate. And when we see comparable countries, the economies which we are competing with, they have far better female labor force participation rates. Another data that is in front of us that will basically show you the steady fall in unemployment that we have seen. But at the same time, when we are talking about labor force participation rate, especially for rural and urban women, it seems a little different. Because when we are talking about urban women, it has not changed drastically, but for rural women, there has been a stark increase. This clearly indicates even if there are certain opportunities or places where labor force participation in terms of females have increased, it is not because of opportunity. It is because of the need, it is because of the distress, and it is because of the fact that there is no option left. Now, this is where we'll move to understand that what is the paradox. So, if we talk about the paradox and the data that we have seen which supports it is the fact that recent rise that we see is largely because of rural areas and especially the self-employment. And many jobs that we are talking about that have been present in terms of female labor force participation that we are seeing, they are low paying, they are necessity driven, and there are no opportunities or limited opportunities per se. Now, the question here is that why women are leaving workforce? Are there certain factors behind it? Yes. We need to understand them so that we can remove them and actually bring the Womenomics that we are talking about in here. Now, let us start with understanding the factors. The first factor, the most obvious one that is lying in our face in our society is the socio-culture factors. The one of them being the traditional gender roles which are associated with females, be it domestic work, be it caregiving work, and that amounts to a burden most of the time where the gender roles are so rigid and so badly tied to this particular gender that there is no scope of wiggling out. Then we also tend to see income effect when we are talking about socio-cultural factors. When we are talking about income effect, we find that whenever a household sees increase in their income, It tends to bring out women out of the workforce, that there is no need for them to work, so that why should they go out and work? So this is the mentality. If there is enough money coming in the household, then people do not prefer the females go out and work. Third factor is the social status. When we are talking about social status, we usually find that non-working wife basically find a different status, different importance, especially because of the gender role that has been associated with them. A glorification is seen. And all of this, it does not diminish the fact that they have more work at households even if they exit the workforce, and there is no recognition for the same economically. Now, if we talk about other factors, then we also find the fact that it is the workplace, it is the environment that the society has created that makes it difficult for women to be employed. For example, if we talk about gender bias, then we find that there is microaggression that is present against females. There is undervaluation of their contributions. There is lack of pay parities. A same work which is done by a male and female, the amount that would be provided as remuneration is starkly different. There is poor implementation, another big reason, poor implementation of any supportive laws which can facilitate with them with their caregiving roles and working loads. For example, Maternity Benefit Act, crèche provisions, all of these have been implemented. They have supporting laws, but they lack implementation, especially in informal sector and private sectors. Furthermore, we also find demand side constraints. As of now, when we talk about jobs, we find that job creation, that means demand for jobs, especially in the sectors which are male dominated, be it manufacturing, be it construction, and especially mechanization in agriculture, which was agriculture being the sector which was employing female labor force, and it has seen that has dropped because of mechanization that we have seen, and there has been no adequate absorption of female labor force from agriculture to other sectors. Now, these are the factors that we have seen around us. This is nothing new that I am talking, but this is a reminder to the fact that if they are addressed, then the face of the economy, the output of the economy, the living standards seen in the economy, the GDPs of the economy will change. And because these factors are not being addressed, we are seeing consequences of low female labor force participation rate. One of the biggest consequences is the low economic output. We can actually go ahead and increase our output by 27% if women's participation is equal to men. There is a lot of untapped talent. If we talk about 50% workforce remains untapped in terms of potential, that means we are losing out on productivity, we are losing in terms of innovation, and all of this has a clear social impact as well. It is perpetuating the belief, it is perpetuating the social problem of gender inequality as well. Furthermore, it increases the dependency of females basically, which furthermore widens this vicious cycle because females are dependent, they have lesser bargaining power, and then they are again in the consequence of gender inequality, where they suffer in the households, where they see domestic violence, where they are suppressed, assaulted, violated, etc. Now the question is, what can be done? This is something that I will leave with you as a food for thought, and it is something that we need to understand, that if India actually wants to rise to become the $5 trillion economy, can India afford it? And it is important, can India convert this statistical rise, that the gradual increase that we are seeing in female labor force participation rate, into actual real economic development, where it is not just in economic parameters, but as well as socio-economic parameters, social parameters. Now let us move and understand that what can be done to address this situation. Many of you might be inclined to say that hybrid work will be the solution here, but hybrid work is basically a double-edged sword. It has the pros where it gives you flexibility, it has reduced commute associated with it, but you have to remember the cons which are associated with gender roles, where we find there is career downshifting, there is lack of work-life boundaries, there is excess workload at home, and there is lack of proper home workspace, which further burdens the females. Now let us look into understanding that how this situation can be addressed with Womenomics. When we are talking about Womenomics, we have to understand that it has a very simple roadmap. If we are talking about economic development of a country, it will only spearhead and move ahead when we see women education level has increased and they start to work in white collar jobs. Not just in certain areas, sporadic regions, but properly concentrated and contributing equally just as men. So poor countries where women works in farm, you will find limited economic development, and urbanization and social barriers, if they exist, economic development will be lower, but this will come here to stay if there is proper women education and proper participation. So we need to start with social change. Social change comes with awareness. So we need to move into mass campaigns which can normalize women's economic participation. We need to encourage shared domestic responsibilities, break the shackles of gender roles that are present in front of us. Apart from the social aspect, there needs to be focus on infrastructure readiness as well. What do I mean by infrastructure readiness? That means the proper implementation when we are talking about access to quality and affordable childcare, not just on paper. Proper public transport safety measures for women workers so their safety is ensured. There has to be an economic policy shift as well, where we are not just talking about job, but creating jobs for women, and especially in women-friendly sectors. For example, healthcare, education, green economy, light manufacturing, skill programs so that women are actually able to utilize the demand created in terms of jobs for themselves. Also, we need to focus on implementation strengthening. Whatever act supporting laws are coming, they need to be implemented at the ground level. And the last most important thing that we need to learn from our countries that we are participating with, like-minded countries, and this example of Womenomics comes from Japan, where we have seen that political commitment was clubbed with workforce reforms and family support systems. That means there was political change, there was economic change, social change, and it led to an incremental increase in female labor force participation rate. Now that was all from my side. Thank you so much.